Hello and welcome to my Leadership in Action presentation. My name is Catherine Watkins and I have chosen to focus on Erin Gruwell from the Freedom Riders. Our main character, Erin Gruwell, started her career in education in 1994 as a first-year freshman English teacher at Woodrow Wilson High School, which was in Long Beach, California. What made her exceptional was her commitment to teaching what we might refer to as the unteachable, those trouble kids, the problem pockets of society where people had given up hope and no one really believed that outstanding results were possible. She came along to prove that that was not the case. In 1999, she really became a household name when her story, The Freedom Writer's Diary, was published, instantly becoming a best-selling book. And then she reached an even wider audience in 2007 when Freedom Writers, the movie starring Hilary Swank, was released in theaters. So since this is a presentation dealing mainly with leadership styles and how those particular strategies were useful in dealing with conflicts, the best place to begin then is with the problems inherent to this particular story. So to begin with, Erin dealt with the doubts and discouragement of everyone around her, from her immediate family to school leadership to colleagues. Basically, everyone doubted her ability to positively impact the students in this environment. Furthermore, she herself was pretty green. She came on scene not really understanding the depth of these students' problems and the tremendous amount of innovation that would be required for her to actually make progress with them. So this really leads into that notion of situational challenges that she faced. She knew it was going to be bad. She knew that she was going into a situation where she would be dealing with at-risk youth. But until you really get into that situation and you start to feel what that's like and try things, you really don't know, especially as a new teacher, which she was, how to deal with that. Lastly, because of her students' background, because of the violence and the trauma that so many of them had experienced, there was this inherent lack of trust and buy-in. Here's this lady who's not from our world, who's showing up and asking us to do things. Are we really going to give her our respect? So, how was she successful in this situation? Well, to begin with, she exhibited tremendous commitment and tenacity, whereas those of weaker disposition may have walked away, thrown in the towel, given up, or otherwise resolved themselves to failure. She simply wasn't willing to give up. She was committed to a vision of success for her students, and there was nothing anyone could say or do to deter her from that vision. The next element that led to Erin's successful resolution of the conflict she faced was her ability to make adjustments in terms of what she did, decisions and augmentations on the fly, based on new information that she gained in her leadership context. Furthermore, and related to those adjustments, is the willingness to take risks, right? So that means the openness that she had when it came to trying unconventional approaches or experimenting with unconventional pedagogies, making herself vulnerable in front of her students. All of these elements led to ultimately her students recognizing what she was there to do. All right, so we've talked about Erin's effective conflict resolution, and now it's time to get down into the nitty-gritty, the theoretical underpinnings of her success as a leader. And as you might have guessed, it all has to do with transformational leadership. So our textbook talks about the 4 I's of transformational leadership, and I'm just going to take these one at a time, beginning with the idealized influence. So when we say idealized influence, we mean the way that leaders are able to present followers with a compelling vision. And in the case of Miss G, we see her presenting students with an alternative future, which is made possible to them through education, right? So, through the experiences she provides, by taking them to museums, presenting them with engaging books, taking them to plays and movies, she's able to show them a bigger world that they never knew existed outside of their own neighborhood. So that second criteria of transformational leadership is inspirational motivation. And this is when leaders have high expectations of their followers. So in the case of Miss G, we see this inspirational motivation coming into play when she refuses to accept that narrative of failure that so many others, including her own colleagues, seem super comfortable using to describe her students. In fact, there's that instance where her own department chair denies the fact that her students are capable of doing on grade level work. So Erin's like, okay, you want to be that way? Fine. She goes and buys her own materials, her own books to use with her students, books that are both challenging and that she knows will appeal to their interests, regarding themes of social justice and the damaging effects of intolerance. And the third criteria of the transformational leadership approach is intellectual stimulation. And this is when we see leaders challenging their followers to question their own assumptions, as well as those of the leader and organization writ large. So in the case of Miss G, we see this happening when she confronts her students for the first time in many cases with rigorous academic work, convincing them that they too are capable, prepared for, and deserving of intellectual work. The fourth and final factor of transformational leadership is the individualized consideration component. So when leaders use this factor, they create a supportive climate by listening to the individual needs of their followers and helping them become fully actualized. With Miss G, we see this happening in when she creates a safe environment in her classroom, where students feel comfortable sharing their thoughts and feelings openly. And we also see it in the investment she shows in her students beyond the classroom. So she gets to know each individual student on a one-on-one basis, supporting their unique goals and needs. So the relevance of all this to contemporary school settings lies in the fact that, unfortunately, nearly, 30 years later, inequity still persists. Across the country, we still have thousands of schools where we are desperately in need of leadership that produces results that exceed expectations. And even though this particular case study focused on the way that a teacher's use of transformational leadership benefited her students, the same principles could be used in terms of a building leader influencing positive outcomes for his teachers, or her teachers for that matter. So to finish up, I leave you with this image of the real Miss G addressing students, hoping that you felt inspired to embrace the principles of transformational leadership, championing human potential, maintaining high expectations in the face of adversity, and doing it all with compassion and authenticity. Thanks for listening.